Now, for the social media to work and indeed applications and platforms that solve problems in society to function, a lot of people work behind the scenes to power these platforms and to ensure that it works. I'm joined by someone who is actively involved in developing apps that solve problems in the society, and as well, he does a lot of trainings across Nigeria. Welcome on board one-on-one, Celestine Achi, CEO, Digital PR Wire.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get to it. You have done a lot as a digital solution provider, providing apps that solve problems. So what kind of applications essentially do you develop?
Basically, I personally do not develop those apps, platforms, or applications. We actually have engineers in-house at the back end that does this. What we basically do is come up with ideas. Ideas that we believe can turn into problem-solving solutions. Okay? And in Nigeria so far, the IT industry, I mean, the government is not taking the IT industry as serious as they should. In fact, the IT industry should be at the forefront of the contribution to GDP. I mean, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, it was just, I think last year, that IT contributed about 0.3% above what oil and gas contributed. So I think we are not there, but we are heading towards the right direction.
Okay, so essentially we know that social problems are a lot in Nigeria. What kind of applications should we be developing as a country now? What's critical for us?
Foremost, I mean, what is critical for tomorrow is solutions that speaks to data and analytics. As you know, I mean, that is the new oil.
Okay.
So once we can get to a point that in Nigeria we begin to develop solutions that speaks to big data and analytics, then we are getting to where we should be.
Can you break it down? Big data analytics, someone is wondering.
Now, take Google for example. Do you know why I love Google? I think of data and I think of insights. Now, it's useless for me to have large chunks of data and I cannot translate it to anything. Now, it becomes beautiful if I can analyze those data and come up with meaningful decisions, both for business, both for the government, even both for the media. And that is the beauty of data and analytics. And in Nigeria so far, I know that apart from Digital PR Wire, I know there are about maybe one or two other organizations or firms that are looking towards that direction. And that's why we came up with the first Big Data Analytics Conference in Nigeria coming up in March 5 to 7.
Okay, essentially, what kind of big data? Is it the data from the government or data from private? Does it cut across every organization?
It calls across sectors, it calls across segments, it calls across different levels of audience. So it comes from everywhere.
Okay, so people can make sense of it and say this is what we have to do and make the right decisions.
Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about how you're able to provide a means of livelihood for people, young people who are unemployed across Nigeria, who possibly want to become content providers. Do you also have stuff you do for people?
Yes, we actually have stuff we do, and we decided to focus on the media. And when I say on the media, the first thing we thought of is to have a solution that can provide platforms for online TV for those who are content producers or who are content developers, because there are two different segments. And what we essentially do is, instead of them to depend on open source, like YouTube, like Vimeo, like I mean, there are several open source video platforms. So what we tried to do was to make ours more of a proprietary solution. which means that they are not dependent on all those open source. Okay, they are built from the scratch. But then what they actually do is to empower both aspiring and emerging entrepreneurs to actually own their own platform, okay, empower their own platform with their content, and of course, monetize their own platform.
Then we already know that some of these platforms you mentioned are the regular, you know, they are there and everybody's there as well. So what would inform someone moving away from all of those established platforms to someone that is entirely new? What's the difference?
Well, big difference. Let's look at it from two different angles, okay? And let's take YouTube, for example. I want to open a channel on YouTube. Okay, I say, look, this is my online TV on YouTube and what have you. And I sign the terms and conditions and what have you. Now, one thing is sure, your content is not premium as long as it goes to an open source platform. And that is what you don't want to do. You actually want to ensure that your platform is what? Your content is premium. Unless you are looking at a freemium model, then the next big thing you should be asking yourself is, how do I monetize this freemium content? And besides, before you earn a dime on YouTube, you must have about 11,000 subscriber base. How do you achieve that overnight? You can, of course, that can be, you can't do that overnight. It will take a long while. So we are a proponent of people or entrepreneurs owning their own platform, empowering their own platform, and monetizing their own platform. And that's what we've been able to do with Kairos Web TV. So we have transformed from just being an online TV to providing such solutions for aspiring and emerging entrepreneurs here in Nigeria and across Africa. The adoption is actually very interesting. I mean, yes, the percentage is on the increase. Yeah, if you look at the recent statistics by We Are Social, at least for December 2018, the number of netizens or Generation Z that are watching online video has actually increased. And for those watching the terrestrial TV and what have you, the percentage is also reducing. So definitely the adoption is becoming interesting. The challenge I think Nigeria may probably be looking to solve is infrastructure, especially when it comes to broadband penetration, which is still very low.
What kind of digital skills do Nigerian youth need to stand to be counted in the world today?
The first, what I would call the lead skill that they should have is coding skill.
Coding?
Very, very important.
Wow. Coding
skill. And I know of a number of even Nigeria training institutions or academy that actually focuses on this training in coding. Okay? Now, the next thing is how to transform the so-called social enterprise to money-making platforms. Okay? And the first thing we look at is, how can I, okay, I'm active on the social media platforms, depending whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or what have you. How can I monetize my presence, okay, as somebody who is very active on these social media platforms? So in that regard, we begin to talk about influence marketing. And what is influence marketing? Basically, you're asking, what is my clout score? How influential am I on these social media platforms? And how can I get the brands who actually want the youths to hear more of their brands, who are looking for what I call to achieving top of demand awareness? How can I become a valuable resource for them achieving their set objectives? Okay, so for the youths who are probably active on these social media platforms, they now begin to think, look, I'm not just on these platforms just to play. I can actually monetize my presence and my influence.
And a lot of people are already doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so from what you've said, beyond coding skills, influence marketing, now can you also give us an idea, what other digital skills you train people to, because just in case someone is not interested in coding and they don't even have all it takes to be an influencer marketer, what other thing can they do to monetize the online presence?
The other thing they can do is, and that is why we are bringing in the Big Data and Business Analytics Conference, is we are also going to be teaching them on how to use analytics to earn income.
Okay.
And basically how do you do that is how to interpret data.
Okay.
And how do you interpret data? So that means that we are going to be teaching them on how to use Python. Because you cannot talk about interpreting data without knowing the elements of Python.
Okay.
And other areas of analytics.
Okay, so essentially, what would you also advise young people, who are on social media today and are looking at, leveraging the opportunity that they have from being on the social media to make gains? What should they actively start doing today?
The first thing they should start doing today is, one, to ask themselves, what are they passionate about? I mean, there is a proverb that says that, look, he that must lead the orchestra must learn just one thing, and that one thing is to back the crowd. Okay? Now, on social media, there are lots of distraction. So you begin to ask yourself, what am I here for, apart from the social life? So I begin to tell them, learn what you are passionate about. Okay? Begin to let people know that you are good at this particular soft skill. Okay? Okay? And once people know that you are good at this particular soft skill, you'll be amazed at how many people will begin to engage you.
So how do they tell people? Good.
I mean, let's take for example, okay? Let's take for example, I'm a good presenter, just like you.
Thank you.
I mean, and I've seen one or two of your clips, and I said, if he's a good presenter, I mean, I love a skill and what have you. I mean, nothing stops me from poaching and saying, look, Ify, I'm offering you something better than what Plus TV Africa is giving.
I get where you're going. So essentially, you put your work out there.
Exactly, you put your work out there.
Okay.
You put what you have done out there. You put your portfolio out there. Let people see what you are good at. Let them see it. Let them experience it.
It's not enough to have a proper CV. It's about what you have done.
Sorry, in today's marketplace, it's not just about CV anymore. For instance, I mean, in Sihan Group, we don't look at your CV. Seriously, we look at the soft skills. Okay. It's not about whether you have a master's degree. We are not interested in it. Wow. We are more interested in those soft skills, in those skills that you have that can make valuable input to what we do.
And that is the new job market that we have today. Exactly. Thank you so much, Celestine Achi, CEO, Digital PR Wire, for your insights on One-on-One today.
Thank you.
Yes, so it is interesting to know that the social media has given us all the opportunities. So what are you doing with your phone? What are you doing with the opportunity that you have to get data and, of course, to interact with other people? Do what you have to do today. Get involved in sharing your work and ensuring that people know what you do and that you do it just right. I am Ify Aronu. Thank you so much for being with me on One-on-One today. Have a great time.